The first shot hit the metal hull with a deafening clang. Sparks flew across the dim corridor, throwing jagged shadows on the walls. Gritted her teeth, pressing her back against the bulkhead as another blast rattled the ship. Her pulse pounded in her ears. "Keep moving," she shouted, but her words were lost in the roar of energy weapons. Somewhere ahead, the alien queen's roar, low, resonant, and terrifying, shook the very floor beneath her boots. Knew the rules: stay out of sight, don't engage, survive. But the moment the queen's silhouette appeared in the flickering emergency lights, froze. The alien was magnificent, tall, elegant, with wings that shimmered like liquid metal and eyes that glowed an unnatural blue. And for a heartbeat, thought she could see something more behind that predatory glare: curiosity. A crash from above sent debris raining down. Ducked instinctively, grabbing a fallen beam to shield herself. The queen's shadow moved closer, gliding silently across the wreckage. Despite the danger, felt a strange pull, an instinctive awareness that this was no ordinary predator. The alien seemed to watch her, not as prey, but as if trying to understand. "Stop, don't move," the voice echoed in her mind, a deep, melodic voice she couldn't place as human or alien. It made her skin prickle. The queen spoke without speaking, and her heart skipped. She shouldn't feel this. She should only feel fear. A sudden tremor shook the corridor. The ship's core was failing. Sparks ran along the floor and fire erupted near the walls. Ran, every muscle burning, with the queen gliding behind her, not attacking, just observing. Every step took, she felt an unexplainable connection. Her thoughts weren't her own. Images of the queen, of alien landscapes bathed in blue light, flickered through her mind. She stumbled, her hand brushing a console, and in that instant the queen's energy enveloped her. She didn't know why, but the fear that had gripped her seconds ago loosened. "Why aren't you killing me?" whispered aloud, disbelief shaking her voice. The queen's eyes softened, and in that terrifyingly alien way, she tilted her head. A wave of something, an emotion couldn't name, washed over her. Pain, understanding, longing. The queen's presence hummed through her body, and for the first time realized she could feel the alien, not as a creature to fight, but as a being she might trust. Then the floor buckled beneath them. With a roar that vibrated through metal and bone, the queen leapt, catching mid-fall in a sweep of wings. Time slowed, and her heart thundered, not from fear, but from awe. They landed on a catwalk, trembling and burning. She stared up at the queen, chest heaving, and in that moment knew one truth: she couldn't explain the connection she felt, not to herself, not to anyone. But she had no time to dwell. The ship groaned, warning lights screaming. The human soldiers behind her were not far, hunting both her and the queen. Mind raced, allies or enemies, and yet even as adrenaline surged, she felt it, the subtle, undeniable thread binding them together. Somehow, against everything, against instinct, fear, and survival, she and the alien queen were entwined. The queen's wings unfurled, and with a movement as fluid as water, she propelled them both over the edge of the crumbling platform. Stomach lurched. In she glimpsed the vast emptiness outside the hull, stars and darkness stretching infinitely. The queen's glowing eyes met hers, and it felt like the universe had paused to hold its breath. Its mind screamed, we shouldn't survive this, yet there was no fear, only connection. As they tumbled toward the abyss, whispered the words she couldn't understand herself. "I trust you." The queen responded with a hum, vibrating through his chest like music. It was more than acknowledgement, it was affirmation, a promise neither fully understood. And for a fleeting moment, with the void below and chaos behind, felt something impossible: hope. Then the queen twisted midair, wings slicing the vacuum, and pulled them to safety. They crashed onto the jagged remains of an observation deck, gasping, scorched, yet alive. Lay there, staring at the alien whose power could have destroyed her, yet had instead saved her. And she realized she could no longer separate herself from the queen. She didn't just feel fear or awe, she felt something profound, something terrifyingly human, something that refused a name. And that thought was more dangerous than any weapon. The human soldiers' voices echoed through the wrecked ship like a storm. "Report, she can't be far," one shouted, panic creeping under the military discipline, pressed herself against a scorched wall, chest heaving, ears straining. The queen crouched beside her, wings folded tightly, eyes still glowing faintly. She radiated a quiet, unshakable presence, like a mountain in the middle of chaos. "Why aren't they stopping?" whispered. Her mind still reeled from the fall, the crash, the inexplicable warmth of the queen's touch as they landed. She should be terrified, she told herself. Every instinct screamed kill or be killed. Yet somehow she felt a tether, thin but unbreakable, pulling her toward the alien. The queen made no sound, only extended a clawed hand. Hesitated, then placed her own in it. A surge of understanding flashed through her. She could sense the queen's thoughts, not words, but raw emotion. Fear for the ship, for something beyond her comprehension, and most unexpectedly, curiosity. Suddenly, the corridor ahead erupted in fire. The soldiers were advancing, but something was different now. Didn't feel fear. She felt clarity. The queen shifted, wings unfurling silently, and the energy around her thrummed with power. The soldiers froze, their weapons trembling as if the air itself resisted their control. "You feel it, don't you?" thought, not speaking aloud. She wasn't sure if it was her voice or hers in the queen's mind. The alien tilted her head, and in a way that made's chest ache, the queen acknowledged her. They were allies in a fight no one else understood. But the soldiers didn't wait. Blaster fire ignited the corridor. Dove dragging the queen behind a shattered pillar. Sparks showered down, and for the first time realized how dangerous this connection could be. If the soldiers knew, if anyone knew, how she could sense the queen's thoughts, how she could almost feel what the alien felt, it would be weaponized against them both. The queen's energy flared, and the soldiers screamed as a wave of force pushed them back. Stumbled, coughing, but the queen caught her. The brief contact sent warmth through her, unlike anything she'd ever felt, a mixture of comfort and something deeper, something she couldn't name without fear of shame. What are you?" whispered, trembling. The queen's eyes softened. Not pity, not menace, understanding, had never seen anything so alien look so human. And yet she realized with a sharp, terrifying clarity she was beginning to care. The soldiers regrouped, relentless. They didn't just want her, they wanted the queen, had no doubt about it. The queen's species wasn't supposed to exist in this sector. Humanity had rules for things like them, terminate, but wanted to protect the queen, protect this impossible bond. "Can you fly us out?" asked, voice barely audible over the hum of energy. The queen's wings quivered. Then, without hesitation, she lifted them both into the debris-filled void of the upper deck. Metal groaned under the sudden pressure, sparks falling like rain, and the human soldiers could only watch, mouths open, powerless. As they soared, felt the bond deepen. The queen's mind brushed against hers again, not invasive, but intimate. Emotions swirled, fear, relief, awe, and something unspoken, something that made's throat tighten. She tried to push it away, tried to remind herself of duty, of logic, of everything she knew about survival. But the truth was inescapable. She had never felt so alive, so seen, so connected. They landed on a platform that overlooked the fractured ship core. The queen crouched, exhausted, wings folding slowly, and approached cautiously. She wanted to speak, but words failed her. Instead, she placed a trembling hand on the alien's arm. The queen responded with a gentle hum, a sound that resonated in chest and soul simultaneously. "It's dangerous," thought more to herself than the queen. "Everything about this us is dangerous." The queen's eyes glimmered in the dim light. Not warning, not denial. Acknowledgement. Realized she had crossed a line she could never uncross. She didn't understand this feeling, couldn't explain it even to herself. But it was there, undeniable, raw, and real. And she feared it because she had never been so vulnerable and yet never so alive. Above them, alarms blared. The soldiers were regrouping, preparing for a final push. Knew one thing: they couldn't fight forever. The queen and she were on borrowed time, yet she didn't want to leave. Not yet. She couldn't explain why. She only knew she couldn't abandon the alien, not now, not ever. The queen extended a wing toward her and placed her hand atop it. A silent pact formed, not of strategy, but of heart. They were allies. They were connected. They were something more, even if neither of them had the words for it. And in the darkness of a dying ship, finally understood one truth: some bonds defy logic. Some connections refuse explanation, and some feelings could change everything. The bridge of the ruined ship shook violently as the soldiers stormed the upper decks. Crouched beside the queen, sweat and soot streaking her face. She could hear the pounding of human boots, the disciplined shouts of her former comrades who now hunted her as though she were the threat. Her pulse thundered, not from fear, but from the impossible weight of choice pressing down on her chest. The queen's wings stretched in the low gravity, muscles tense like coiled springs. watched, captivated, as the alien's form shifted with fluid grace, impossible and beautiful. In that moment, she realized how fragile they both were. One wrong move, one shot fired, and it would be over. Yet she couldn't bring herself to care only about survival. She cared about the queen, and that thought made her chest ache. A soldier shouted from above, his voice sharp and commanding. "Stand down and surrender!" The words sounded hollow against the roaring alarms and the hum of the failing ship. Hands tightened into fists. She couldn't, she wouldn't. Not when the queen had saved her life, not when she felt that pull, like a thread through her soul she could not sever. The queen leaned closer, her glowing eyes meetings. In a way that bypassed words entirely, the alien communicated urgency, danger, and trust. His heart clenched. She had no plan, no strategy, and yet she understood that the choice was hers. She could run, leave the queen to face extermination and survive, but she could never forgive herself. The floor trembled beneath them, a warning that the ship's core was unstable. Sparks shot up around them, catching in the queen's metallic wings and bathing the area in blue light. Stomach flipped. They didn't have time for hesitation. The soldiers advanced again, now closer than ever, swallowed hard and met the queen's gaze. She could feel the alien's heartbeat, or at least something like it, in her mind. The pulse of her life force, steady, defiant, and terrifyingly beautiful. "Together," whispered, unsure if the queen could hear her voice or only the emotion behind it. The alien responded with a low, resonant hum that vibrated through his chest. It was agreement, it was promise, and it was terrifying. The soldiers fired again. Blaster beams tore through metal, igniting sparks that rained like fireflies. The queen reacted with a speed that made his head spin. A sweep of her wings knocked the beams aside, sending human soldiers tumbling backward. Felt the energy of the queen ripple through her, a surge of adrenaline, of connection, of something almost sacred. She realized she was no longer just watching the queen fight, she was part of it. Part of her power, her presence, her intent. Yet the danger didn't relent. His mind raced. If they didn't escape, if they didn't leave this ship now, the soldiers would overwhelm them. And worse, if the core destabilized fully, there would be no survivors. She could feel it through the queen, urgency, fear, but also hope. A sudden crash above made flinch. The soldiers were dropping through weakened floors, closing in faster than she had imagined. The queen's hum deepened, vibrating with something primal. Realized she had a choice. She could flee alone through a maintenance shaft and survive, or she could stay with the queen and risk everything. Her hands shook as she reached for the alien's taloned arm. "I'm not leaving you," she said firmly, voice steady despite the chaos. The queen's glowing eyes softened, a gesture understood as gratitude or maybe relief or something too complex for human words. It didn't matter, had made her choice. With a sweep of wings, the queen launched them both across the collapsing deck. Sparks and shards of metal flew past them as they tumbled through the chaos. Clung tightly, heart-pounding, body pressed against the alien she could neither define nor separate herself from. Every fiber of her being screamed that she should be terrified. And yet, she was. She was alive, connected, and strangely at peace. They landed hard on a platform near the outer hull. The void of space stretched beyond, black and infinite. Gasped, disoriented, but the queen steadied her with a gentle, glowing hand. Could feel warmth radiating, a comforting current threading through her, connecting them in a way that logic. She realized then that survival wasn't just about escaping the soldiers. Survival was about protecting this connection, protecting the queen, even when she couldn't explain why. Behind them, the soldiers regrouped, felt a flicker of fear, not for herself, but for the queen. And in that fear, in that raw, undefinable emotion, discovered the first true truth. Her feelings for this alien weren't just instinct or admiration or gratitude. They were something deeper, something dangerous, something human. The queen's wings lifted them into the void, the dark expanse of space reflecting the blue glow of her form. Held on tightly, and for the first time she let herself feel it fully, connection, trust, and something that could not be named. She didn't have the words, but she didn't need them. Words had never been enough for something this vast, this impossible. As they drifted toward an escape pod, whispered again, barely audible, "I don't know what this is, but I can't let go." The queen's eyes glimmered like stars in response. No words, no sound, just understanding, and for that was enough. They had escaped the immediate danger, but knew the true fight was only beginning. Out there in the cold, infinite reaches of space, they were free, yes. But the universe would not forgive this bond so easily, and neither would humanity. The escape pod shuddered as it detached from the dying ship, tumbling silently through the blackness of space. Clung to the controls, heart racing, every instinct screaming that this was only the beginning. Behind her, the Queen hovered, wings folded tightly, the blue glow of her eyes casting an otherworldly light across the cramped interior. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The silence was heavy but not uncomfortable. It was charged, alive, like the space between two stars ready to ignite. His mind raced, trying to name what she felt and failing. Trust, awe, something deeper, something human and terrifying in its intimacy. Finally, she broke the silence. Why did you save me?" Her voice was quiet, almost trembling. The Queen's gaze met hers. Then, in a thought that felt more than heard, the answer came, "Because you were not afraid of me." Blinked, her breath catching. She wasn't sure if she understood, or even wanted to, but the words or the feeling resonated in her chest. She realized then that the bond they shared wasn't just survival. It was recognition, connection, and perhaps something she had never allowed herself to admit, belonging. The pod systems hummed, stabilizing their trajectory. Looked out the viewport at the distant remnants of the ship burning into the void. She felt a pang of sorrow, not for herself, but for the lives lost, and for the worlds colliding in ways she could barely comprehend. "We need to find a safe place," said aloud, breaking her thoughts. "Somewhere the humans won't follow us immediately." The Queen inclined her head and felt a warmth radiate through her chest. Together, they plotted a course to an uncharted moon system, one that promised isolation and, hopefully, peace. Yet knew it wouldn't be easy. Humanity wouldn't accept what they didn't understand, and the Queen's kind had power and knowledge far beyond human comprehension. That alone made them a target. Hours passed in tense quiet. Tried to focus on navigation, on calculations and survival, but the Queen's presence was magnetic. Every flicker of blue light from her eyes, every subtle movement, sent thoughts spiraling. She couldn't explain it, couldn't rationalize it, but the alien's nearness stirred emotions she had never allowed herself to feel. Finally leaned back, exhaustion overtaking her. I don't even know what this is," she admitted softly. "I shouldn't feel this way, I shouldn't." The Queen touched her hand with a taloned finger, gentle, deliberate, flinched, then froze. The sensation wasn't pain, nor entirely warmth, it was understanding. In that instant, felt as if the Queen could see every fear, every doubt, every longing she had buried deep inside. "You are not alone," the Queen's presence said. Didn't need the words. She felt them in her chest, in the pull of their connection. A sudden alert jerked upright. Sensors detected a fleet approaching, not human but alien. Stomach twisted. "We're not safe yet," she muttered. Panic clawed at her throat, but she caught herself. The Queen's calm presence steadied her, an anchor in the storm. Together they could survive this. Together, perhaps, they could face anything. Realized something terrifying. She would follow the Queen anywhere, into unknown galaxies, into impossible dangers, not out of duty, but because she wanted to. That thought made her stomach churn. She had trained her whole life to rely on logic, to obey orders, to survive. Yet here, in the endless void with an alien being she couldn't explain, she felt her humanity fully, raw, unfiltered, and utterly unprepared. The pod systems hummed as they maneuvered, twisting through debris and asteroids. Glanced at the Queen, whose form seemed almost fragile in the tight confines of the pod, yet radiated power and authority that made his heart race. They were so different, so impossibly different, but in that difference was a strange harmony had never thought possible. And yet knew the truth. She couldn't stay safe forever. Humanity would hunt them, and the Queen's enemies, both known and unknown, would come. She didn't know if the universe could understand a bond like theirs, or if it even wanted to. But she did know this. She could no longer separate herself from the Queen. She couldn't, and she would not try. For the first time, allowed herself to hope. Not for survival, not for escape, but for the impossible. That she and the Queen might exist together in a universe that had never prepared them to. As the stars stretched past them, infinite and silent, whispered into the darkness, "Then we face it, together." The Queen's eyes glimmered in response, a promise without words, a bond that language, species, and reason. And for that promise was everything. The escape pod finally breached the atmosphere of a strange, untouched world, pressed her face to the viewport awestruck. Below stretched forests of luminous plants, rivers that shimmered like liquid silver, and mountains that seemed to float, defying gravity. The air glowed faintly, charged with energy she could feel in her bones. She had never seen anything like it. Not in human history, not in her training, not in her wildest imaginings. The Queen hovered beside her, wings folded, eyes scanning the world with a mixture of caution and curiosity. Watched her, captivated. She had fought alongside humans for years, had followed orders without hesitation, but this was different. Nothing about this was about duty. Everything about this was about connection, about trust, about a bond that neither of them could name. They landed on a plateau near a river that glowed with turquoise light. The pod's landing thrusters kicked up a storm of luminous dust, yet the planet remained calm, silent, as if observing them. Stepped out, the soft hum of energy beneath her boots making her skin tingle. The Queen followed, graceful and commanding, her presence radiating power and reassurance at once. Swallowed, glancing at the alien. This place feels alive," she murmured. Her voice sounded fragile in the vastness. "Do you know it?" The Queen tilted her head, eyes narrowing. A wave of emotion flooded its mind, not invasive, not overwhelming, but full of recognition, history, and longing. "I have walked here long before your kind existed." The words or the feeling resonated deep inside. It was impossible, and yet in that impossibility felt comforted, grounded. They moved cautiously through the alien landscape. Noticed the flora seemed to react to them, bending and shimmering as they passed, as if sensing their presence. She reached out to touch a glowing plant, startled when a soft vibration ran through her fingers. The Queen watched her closely, tilting her head in that unnerving, deliberate way that made his chest tighten. Hours passed. They found a small valley to rest in, hidden beneath floating rock formations. Settled on the ground, exhaustion pressing on her, but the Queen did not rest. She hovered, scanning the horizon with luminous eyes, as if even this untouched world could harbor danger. Studied her heart beating faster than she wanted to admit. "I don't understand why I feel this," she whispered, more to herself than to the alien. "Why I care so much." The Queen approached, slow and deliberate, lowering her face close to us. The glow from her eyes softened, warm and intimate. Felt the alien's energy flow through her, calming, steadying, almost intoxicating. She realized she wasn't afraid anymore. Not of this place, not of the Queen, not even of herself. The feelings were overwhelming, yet she could not deny them. The Queen extended a wing, brushing against his shoulder in a way that made her shiver. It was not a gesture of dominance or threat, but of trust. Understood instinctively that this alien, this being from a world she could barely comprehend, was offering her a connection that transcended species, that ignored fear, protocol, and logic. Closed her eyes, letting herself feel it fully. She could sense the Queen's thoughts mingling with hers, memories of battles, of planets, of solitude, and she knew she could never unsee, unfeel this. She wanted it. She wanted the bond, even if it terrified her. A low growl echoed across the valley. Eyes snapped open. Shadows shifted among the glowing trees, creatures she had never imagined, predators unlike anything human could ever face. His breath caught, but the Queen moved in front of her, wings flaring, energy radiating outward like a shield. "Stay close," thought, almost shouting it into the Queen's mind. The response was immediate, a vibration through her chest, a pulse of power and reassurance. Together they faced the creatures, not as human and alien, not as soldier and queen, but as something more, partners, equals, and inexplicably connected. The creatures advanced, and the Queen's roar reverberated across the valley. Felt it in her chest, every vibration syncing with her heartbeat. In that moment she understood. The bond was no accident. It was survival, yes, but it was also recognition, two beings acknowledging each other in a universe that tried to keep them apart. The creatures faltered, sensing the power radiating from the Queen. Stepped forward, her pulse steady. She didn't need weapons, she didn't need strategy, she only needed to trust. And for the first time she did, completely, without hesitation, without fear. As the threat retreated into the shadows, turned to the Queen, her chest tightened, her throat raw. I can't explain this," she admitted, voice trembling. "But I need you." The queen lowered herself closer, wings brushing lightly against, and felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the sun or the planet. It had to do with connection, understanding, and something profoundly human. And in that alien valley under strange skies, realized that the impossible had become real. She and the queen were bound, and nothing, not humans, not predators, not distance, could undo it. The alien valley was quiet now, the strange, glowing flora swaying gently in the soft breeze. Sat beside the queen, exhausted but restless. Her hands trembled slightly as she traced patterns on the alien's wing, and with every touch she felt the bond between them strengthen. She didn't understand it. She couldn't explain it. But she knew it was real, and that terrified her almost as much as it thrilled her. The queen remained still, her glowing eyes fixed on. In the alien's presence, felt seen, not just as a soldier, not just as a human, but as herself. Her thoughts, her fears, her desires all seemed to matter here in a way they never had before. It was terrifying, but she couldn't look away. She wanted more. A sudden vibration through the ground made stomach twist. Her heart skipped. The human pursuit had not stopped. Scouts, or maybe reinforcements, were closing in. His body tensed, every muscle ready for flight or fight. "We can't stay here," she said aloud, voice tight. Her eyes darted to the queen, whose form radiated calm, yet every instinct had screamed that danger was near. The queen extended her wing and touched lightly. A rush of warmth, of understanding, pulsed through her. "We face them together," the queen's presence said, and felt it as clearly as if the words were spoken aloud. Nodded, she didn't need more. The thought that she would face the humans alone had already crossed her mind, and it had been unbearable. She couldn't abandon the queen, not now, not ever. The first blaster shot echoed through the valley. Dove instinctively, her mind and body reacting in sync with the queen's movements. Wings spread wide, the alien created a shield of energy, deflecting the blasts. Felt the pulse of the queen's power in her chest, guiding her, keeping her safe. She realized then that she wasn't just surviving, she was alive in a way she had never been before. The human soldiers advanced cautiously, shouting orders, clearly bewildered by the alien's abilities. Could see fear flicker in their eyes. She understood it. She had once been on their side. But that understanding did nothing to dampen the fire in her chest. She wasn't human in the same way anymore, not entirely. That bond with the queen had changed her. A pause in the firefight gave a moment to breathe. She turned to the alien and spoke softly, almost a confession. "I don't know what I am feeling, I can't explain it, but I can't let you go, I won't." The queen's glow intensified, brushing against like a living presence. Felt the alien's heartbeat, or something like it, resonate with her own. For a brief, infinite moment, she felt connected in a way that transcended fear, species, even logic. She was part of something bigger than herself, bigger than humanity, bigger than any war she had ever known. The humans attacked again, and chaos erupted. Ducked and rolled, instinctively moving with the queen, their bond guiding every motion. She could feel the alien's emotions mingling with hers, anger, defiance, protectiveness, and it made her stronger, faster, more focused than she had ever been. A soldier broke cover, aiming directly at. Without thinking, she pushed herself forward and grabbed his weapon, disarming him with a precise, fluid motion she didn't know she was capable of. The queen hummed, and the vibration sent a wave through his chest, steadying her, connecting her further to this alien being. They were surrounded yet unbroken. Realized then the truth. The connection she shared with the queen wasn't just emotional, it was survival. It was strength. It was hope. And for the first time in her life, didn't feel fear of what she was becoming. The last of the human soldiers fell back, retreating into the shadows of the glowing forest. Breathed heavily, chest heaving. She glanced at the queen, who lowered herself gracefully beside her. There was no triumph, no celebration, only quiet understanding. Rested her head against the alien's shoulder. "I don't know what will happen," she whispered, "or if we'll ever be safe, but I need you, and I think you need me too." The queen's wings curled around her, a protective embrace that vibrated with warmth. Felt every ounce of loneliness, fear, and uncertainty wash away in that moment, replaced by something she had never known she could feel: belonging. And as the alien and human sat together in the alien valley, understood something terrifying and beautiful. Some bonds cannot be explained, cannot be, and cannot be broken, even by war, fear, or the vastness of space. She didn't have the words yet, but she didn't need them. The alien valley was quiet, almost sacred, as dawn's faint glow shimmered across the luminous flora. Sat beside the queen, feeling the rhythm of her heartbeat, or whatever human-like pulse she could sense, and let herself breathe fully for the first time in what felt like weeks. But peace was fragile. Instincts screamed that it wouldn't last. Humanity, relentless and unforgiving, would not simply let her disappear. The sky darkened suddenly. Shadows moved across the valley. Pulse quickened, but the queen's presence steadied her. The glowing eyes fixed on the horizon, wings flexing, every muscle coiled like a spring. Felt the alien's thoughts brush hers. They come. Are you ready? Nodded, though her throat tightened. She had never felt more alive and never more terrified. Yet in that fear she found clarity. She wasn't alone. She would not face this universe alone. She and the queen were bound, and together they could endure anything. The humans arrived, soldiers in advanced suits, blasters aimed, expressions hard and determined. Own people. She knew they would demand surrender, would see the queen as a threat to be eliminated. But she couldn't abandon her. She wouldn't, not now, not ever. The queen rose, wings unfurling with an elegance that took breath away. Energy pulsed along her body, radiating outward like a living shield. Felt the vibration in her chest, felt it intertwining with her heartbeat, making her stronger, faster, more certain than she had ever been. She had a weapon, yes, but more than that, she had connection. The first blaster fired, and the queen's wings flared, creating a wave of energy that knocked the humans off their feet. Moved instinctively, guided by the alien's presence. Every motion, every step felt in sync with her. She wasn't just fighting alongside the queen, she was part of her power. One soldier broke through the energy shield, weapon raised. Stepped forward, voice steady but firm. "Stop! You don't understand, she isn't your enemy." The soldier hesitated, confusion flickering in his eyes. But it was too late for words alone. Grabbed his arm, feeling the queen's pulse flow through her, and together they sent him sprawling without harm. Realized then that this bond, the connection she felt, was not just emotional. It was survival, it was protection, it was hope. The humans faltered, fear and awe mingling in their expressions. His chest tightened, but she didn't falter. She looked at the queen, glowing and magnificent, and whispered into her mind, "We're together, no matter what." The queen's hum responded, vibrating through, affirming, comforting, affirming their bond. In that moment, felt something she hadn't dared to allow herself to feel. Certainty. She didn't know what the future held, didn't know if humanity could ever accept this connection. But she knew that nothing, not fear, not orders, not distance, could sever it. The humans slowly backed down, retreating into the shadows, leaving and the queen alone in the valley. Exhaled, chest aching, tears welling in her eyes. The queen lowered herself beside her, wings curling gently around her, and leaned in. She didn't have to explain herself, didn't have to rationalize her emotions. The bond they shared was enough. "I don't understand it," whispered softly, "but I trust you, I believe in us." The queen's eyes glimmered, and in that alien gaze saw reflection, recognition, understanding, and something dangerously like affection. She reached out, touching the glowing wing, and felt warmth, protection, and connection ripple through her entire being. For the first time, realized that fear could not define her. Duty, survival, logic, they were no longer the only rules. She had chosen something else, something greater. Connection, trust, and love that transcended worlds. As the twin suns rose over the alien valley and the queen rose with the wind, wings unfurling, hearts, human and alien, beating in quiet harmony. They were different, impossibly different, but together they were unstoppable. Together they could face the universe. And finally understood the truth she had always felt but never named. Some bonds defy reason. Some connections are too powerful to ignore. Some feelings cannot be explained, they must simply be lived. She held the queen close, whispering, "Then we face it all together." The queen's wings spread wide, lifting them into the glowing sky. Clung to her, heart soaring with exhilaration and certainty. Together, human and alien, they would carve a place in a universe that had never imagined them. And together, they were unstoppable. For the first time, didn't just survive, she belonged.